Transformers96 here with another Hot Toys review. This time we have the Hot Toys Iron Man 3 from the Iron Legion, the Igor armor. So yeah. So this was a figure that until recently I had no intentions to get. You know, when it was going on pre-order, I was kind of considering it. I was hoping for a $350 price tag, but more expecting a $400 one. So when it went on pre-order for $510, I thought that was quite outrageous even for Hot Toys. And if any of you remember, I did make a video, which I still have up if you want to check it out, just saying why I thought that was a ridiculous price. Nonetheless, it always has, you know, stuck in my mind because it's so unique and so cool. So recently, about a month ago, I started seriously considering getting him. I was able to get him a little under retail, which was a must thing for me to do because I could not pay full retail for this guy, and that's why I did decide to get him. Did get him from Toy Anxiety, and I'm very happy to have him. I must say, I still think $510 is a ridiculous price. So my thoughts on that haven't changed too much. Although getting it in person, some you know, finding out a little bit more new things about it from what I knew back when it was on pre-order. Nonetheless, though, really glad to get it, and yeah, so now let's go into the actual figure. Alright, so here he is out of the package. As you can see, quite a stunning and eye-catching armor, that is for sure. Definitely very unique, of course, probably the most unique of all the Iron Man armors, with a very bright blue color scheme, a very hunched over back, and without weaponry or any kind of, you know, guns or designs like that. So a very unique armor, definitely one of the top reasons that I did decide to purchase this one in the end. Overall, looking great. Typically now I would be going into the accessories. Of course, he is completely he's completely lacking on accessories, which is unfortunate, but nonetheless, you really can't ask for too many accessories with this guy because he is in the movie for 11 seconds, no joking. So yeah. So let's go over the actual sculpt of the armor. It's very nice, and it's something that is... It's a little different in person. I don't know what it is, but the top section of his torso, this area right here that goes all the way around, it's very different in person than in pictures. In pictures, it kind of gives it a more of a flat look on here. And then a little bit bulky on the back, or if you're just looking at it from a front view, it gives it just a bulky in the front, but then not much in the back type of thing. I don't know how to really explain it, but when you get it in person, it's very rounded. It's got a very rounded feel to it, which I do like a lot. It gives him a much bulkier type of look, which is very cool. And then the waist itself is quite large in its complete span, but it is more of a cylinder type of shape. So just to give you kind of a look at how the torso is set up, because of course his torso is very different from any Iron Man armor that we've ever seen. And then of course it is rounded very much on the top, and then his head sets forward. I really do like the name for him. I think Igor is a perfect name, of course, because of the whole hunched over type of a vibe that you get from him. So I think that was a clever name by the movie studio, considering he is not from the comics or anything. Overall, looking quite nice. Another thing that was quite disappointing when I saw the in-hand photos of him was the color. I thought that the metallic blue, you know, looks nice, but I was definitely liking the original photos and the original pictures of him at Comic-Con and at toy fairs, with a much darker and more realistic type of blue, and more of the blue that I remember from the movie. Whether that was just because we only saw him at night, or he was actually colored like that in the movie, it didn't really matter. It gave me more of a movie feel and not so much of a toy with the very bright and shiny paint job that we do get in person, as opposed to the prototype pictures. Overall, though, I have gotten really used to the metallic blue, and because the other armors are also metallic, he fits in really nice with them. So if the other armors had more mellow colors, then he would really just kind of be out of place. But because they do also have metallic colors, it does make sense that he would have the metallic colors as well. And he fits in with the team a lot better. If you have him displayed, you know, on his own, I think the darker blue would have been a lot nicer to go with. I think that would have looked a lot nicer. But if you do have him set up with an Iron Legion kind of display, even just a couple Iron Legion armors, then I do like the metallic blue more so than the flat blue, I think. I think because it just looks great with the other Iron Man armors. But of course you do get some very bulky arms. You got big shoulder pads, you know, large biceps, and then very big, I don't know what you call these forearms here, looking very nice. The whole battle damage paint job is actually quite good. I thought that in pictures, you know, this looked a little fake, just it was so, you know, kind of pristinely done almost, and not so natural looking. But in person it is quite nice, and it doesn't really affect it. Overall looking really nice. I love the way they do their silver, of course. They kind of like wash a kind of speckled look into it to make it look realistic, and then they add a little bit of brown highlighting throughout it to give it almost like a little bit of a rusted feel. Love the way that Hot Toys does the silver paint. I think that they just nail that. It absolutely looks completely realistic, and that's why you can't tell whether your figure is die-cast or plastic unless they announce it, so I do like that a lot if you're just looking at him, of course. Overall looking very cool here. He does have a couple functions, nothing too grand, but you can rotate this little area down and just moving it up so you can see it. As you can see, just some panels down there. It's pretty neat. I mean, I do like the fact that he does have this in this toy, because it's obviously something that was never talked about or shown in the movie, but it would make sense that he would have it, you know, kind of like a forklift type of thing, and another way to support some structure or something, you know, so it does make sense that he would have that capability. Wish that it was demonstrated in the movie, though. Would make the toy a little bit more accurate if it was shown in the movie, but nonetheless I think it is quite nice, and I'm sure that that was part of the actual design for the armor. The legs are quite massive, I must say. You can't wrap your hands around them and, you know, actually touch your fingers like that, because they are quite large. And I do like the paneling work done at the feet here. They are very easily moved, and therefore don't hinder the ankle articulation. Although with this massive figure, you're not going to get any really dramatic poses with the legs, I must say. It really doesn't leave a lot of room for that. But overall looking quite nice, and I do like the hands a lot. Of course, these are articulated fingers, and I will go over the articulation quite soon here. He does have these throughout him, just little kind of warning labels and stickers and stuff. Get you a nice close-up view. Move the light so you can really see them. As you can see, I really do like those a lot. I think they add a really great feel to him, and something that we don't see on Iron Man armors, and they really just look quite wonderful. Does have it on this arm too, and then up here he has it as well. Really neat. I like those a lot. The only thing that I don't like about them is that it really doesn't seem too accurate. I mean, I don't know why Tony Stark would put those labels on the Iron Man armor, because obviously he's the only one. He's not mass producing these and selling them to people. He's obviously just making this for himself, so it just doesn't make sense that he would put those stickers on his armors. But nonetheless, they do look great, and it's not a big deal to me that I really wouldn't understand why he'd do that. It still looks fine and does really give a nice look to him. And then the actual battle damage, not just on the white streaks, but just on his body itself, is really well done. I mean, it looks really nice, and it doesn't stand out as much as I thought. I thought with the metallic blue, having a dark gray, you know, kind of splatter marks in him, I thought that would be really eye-catching, and it wouldn't look as good as I'd hoped it to. But it actually looks quite nice in person. They're not as noticeable as you'd expect, and they just look good. And they go throughout him, which I really do like. You know, I also thought that having a really clean armor with all of a sudden all these little specks of, you know, paint wearing off, I thought would look a little odd as well, but it does it in person, I must say. A lot of my original worries from just seeing the in-hand photos of him were really not needed to be worries, because they did turn out fine. So overall, he does look really nice. I do like the actual design of him a lot. Really quickly, before we go into the articulation, show you the back, of course. Just from a side view, you do have some great paneling in there. I like that a lot, as well as... And unfortunately, this is kind of hidden, so that's a shame. But you do get some like a non-functioning pistons in there, which look really nice, as well as in the arm ball joint. It does have sculpted in wires and stuff like that. Gives him more of a mechanical feel and look, which I really like a lot. On the back paneling here, he does have, of course, the spine. These are all on hinges, these three, and then you do get this one as well. Now, this is a problem that I've had. When I got him out of package, his he was more positioned like this, and what happened was this panel was tucked under right here in between this panel, and then this panel was over this panel, and that was just straight out of the box. I really was disappointed by that, and when I did go over the warning sign, that was actually another a warning that they did have for it to make sure that that panel didn't get jammed like that, and straight out the box it was jammed like that for me, which is a shame. So I do advise some caution with this. Just make sure that when you do have his body tipped up, that these are folded on top of these panels here, and both of them aren't tucked in, and not one of them's tucked in and one of them's out, because it can kind of leave the panel like that, considering this panel right here is a little bit more of a softer plastic, while the other panels are very hard, sturdy plastic. So yeah. And then he does have the, I don't know what you'd call these, but I don't know, platforms to lift the buildings right here. They do rotate up. I've never done it. Oh, there we go. That's pretty nice. I actually like that a lot. And a clicking sound will signify that it's upright based on the instructions. Very cool. So you can lift them up, and what I like about that is that these little, I don't know what you call it, I kind of call those like forks maybe, you know, these like panels right here, these 4 panels on each side, they kind of fold down, which gives it a really neat look. I like it a lot. Let's see how it looks from the front. From the side, it's you know, up very high, of course, and from the front it actually looks pretty neat. I wouldn't mind leaving Igor like this, actually. He might look pretty neat that way. So overall, that's pretty neat, and they do fold up really easily, although this is the first time I've tried it. So overall, I do like that a lot. So now let's go on to articulation. Alright, so going over articulation, this was an area that, of course, whenever you get a figure of odd proportions or shapes, you know, that can be quite worrisome because, you know, you don't know if they're going to be able to articulate it well. This guy is extremely well articulated, and I am very happy about that. He has a lot, you know, he has articulation in all the places I expected him to, but the range of movement in the joints is a lot better than I expected for most areas, which is quite nice. Starting off with the just absolute greatest part of his articulation is his neck joints. Now, he does have 2 ball joints. One that's attached to his back, and then one that's attached to the head right here. The one that's attached to the head doesn't do too much. You can kind of angle it down like that, angle it up, and then a little side to side. It really doesn't do too much at all. I must say it's more for just some fine details. If you want to move it just a tad bit more, then you can use that that front ball joint. The back ball joint, on the other hand, is great. From the inside of his head, it does have quite a bit of movement, as you can see, which is quite nice. And then, of course, if you want even more movement, you just extend that out, and then we've got some extreme movement. He looks completely up, which is just crazy, and then he looks this far down, also just really awesome. I love the range of movement there. Like, he can actually look down at the small figures, which I do like a lot, to have him be able to look down, because of course there is a ton of smaller figures than him, so it is nice that he can look down. And then of course the side to side becomes really nice as well, and he can look quite far to the side, which is just very impressive. I must say the neck joint, I expected it to be good once it came out because I started seeing reviews of it, but even when I got it in person, it just impressed me even more. So I am very happy with the range of movement on that, and then of course you can just push it back to have it, to have his head sit a little further in his head, of course, in his neck. So yeah. Shoulder joints are quite nice. They are completely able to rotate 360, and this panel is, of course, on just a little spring hinge like it usually is, but it really doesn't get in the way much. You can completely rotate it, which I do like a lot. Then, of course, he does come out to the side. There is like a little almost ratcheting effect, you know, you get like one click, one click, one click type of thing, as well as this little panel. It is just also on a little bit of a hinge, so it can move down and a bit out of your way if you want the arm sitting a little closer to his body. Then he does have a bicep swivel, which swivels that much very nicely. I do like that a lot. You do get a nice swivel in there. I expected that swivel to be a little bit more hindered than that. And then the elbows do work quite nice. This is him bent, fully bent, so it's not a ton. It's obviously not a double. It's not a double hinge elbow joint like, you know, other Hot Toys, of course, but it does work quite well. and you can go down, like, there is like 2 points. Of course, it is like double hinge, but it obviously won't hinge up that far. But there is a hinge in here and a hinge in there. The hinge in here just kind of rotates, like, let me try to hold it like this, just to give you a little bit of a snap back and forth there. And then the main hinge in here, that is actually a ratchet, and you can actually hear it ratchet. And it can ratchet 2 places, so you get, and then this can also be moved forward just a little bit. So you'll get 3 points where it can move, 2 ratchets in there, and then 1 click in here. So you can do it quite nice. Of course, his arm doesn't completely extend either. It extends quite nicely to that area. So it's not completely straight, but that is completely fine. So I am quite happy with the elbow articulation. It's not amazing for sure, but it is relatively nice. Alright, we go into the fingers. Of course, these are our articulated fingers. They're quite nice. Now, this is as close as you're going to get as to a fist. Unfortunately, I must say, this is as good as it gets, and I find that incredibly disappointing because if you watch the movie, he only has fists in that quick scene that he's in. He doesn't have his hands open at all. So I think the fists are quite important, and that's my one issue about his accessories. I don't complain about accessories if I can't think of other accessories for him to come with. So my one complaint is he should have come with an extra pair of fists. I do not understand why they didn't do that for this guy. They obviously did it for the Hulk, and then the Ironmonger, he can make quite a tight fist just with his articulated fingers, so I understand why they didn't give him one. But this guy, he really can't make that good of a fist, and it would have been quite easy for them to sculpt just some fisted hands, obviously, that didn't light up, and I am very disappointed that they didn't do that, especially since the battery pack is in this hand, so I don't think it would have been a problem for them to do it either. But they didn't, unfortunately, and that's one big complaint of mine. The ball-jointed upper torso is quite nice. Like I said, when you're articulating this, I would recommend that you watch out for that back panel on his spine to make sure that that's in a good position. It's not being jammed anywhere, but it does have quite a range of motion. Obviously, he can move up this far, which is quite nice. He can bend down this far, and then he can, of course, rotate it, which is really nice. And then, of course, he can turn it so that he is at a bit of an angle. I do like the torso articulation a lot. I think that it does move a lot more than I expected. I expected mainly just a swivel, maybe with a little up and down motion. He's got more up and down motion than I expected, and one thing that I completely didn't expect was to be able to tilt it side to side. I didn't think that that would be capable, that he'd be capable of doing that, but he can, which is quite nice. Now the legs joints, they're not great, and I'm really not going to touch those too much or, you know, go over them too much because it's really not necessary. You're going to get him in a position where he is standing up nice, and he's got the nice, you know, kind of spread legs or more tighter legs to make him taller, whichever is your preference. I prefer him to be kind of in the middle, you know, to have semi-spread legs with a bit of a bend in the knee to give him more of a squat type of look. But it's really your preference, of course. And he can do, you know, a lot. This is about as far as the bend is on his thigh there. It's not great, but it is all right. And then he does have some good knee joints. Let's see, yeah, you can get quite a tight bend on the knee, just based on that right here. That's a pretty tight knee bend for him. And of course, you can just get in the position that you like. And with his odd proportions, of course, you will have to mess around for just a couple minutes trying to get him in a really nice position to get him to be able to have that look that you're going for, as well as to be able to be stable, because he is very oddly proportioned. But once you get his feet in the right position, he'll be fine, which I've noticed, and I do like that a lot. Then, of course, he has the standard ankle articulation. Not going to really go over that because you really don't move the legs very much at all. So overall articulation is quite nice. The leg articulation is nothing too fancy, and that's because you don't need it to be too fancy. He's not going to be doing any acrobatic movements or any kicks or you know, kneeling on the ground or anything like that. He's not going to be doing that. So I could, you know, if the legs were even just a statue, it really wouldn't bother me too much because you don't need the articulation. But the arms, head, and torso are very important to me on this figure, and they completely delivered in all those areas. So I am very pleased with the articulation on Igor. Alright, now to go over a bit of the lights. Of course, he does end to come with the batteries in him. You obviously get a pack like this with all the batteries. And that's the new style of doing the Iron Man figs from Hot Toys. I think it's a pretty neat idea because a lot of the times, you know, not many collectors actually keep the batteries in it because there is a chance it could corrode, and you don't want the batteries to corrode in a, you know, hundreds of dollar figures. So obviously I do like what they're doing now. I never have really cared too much for the lights in the hands. I think they're too bright. They just don't look too nice. So I didn't put the batteries in his hands. I do like the batteries in his chest and head. I could not get the batteries in his head purely because the screw was incredibly tight, and I spent 2 separate occasions trying to get that screw undone, and I have a good size screwdriver. It's not like my screwdriver is too big or too small or anything like that, and it just was just stuck in there. I couldn't get it out, and I really didn't want to push the issue too much because basically right after this review I was going to take it out anyway, so I really didn't put the batteries in the head, unfortunately, because I would have liked to see that on, but that is alright. I did do the chest, and the chest, incredibly easy to remove this panel. One of my favorite things about the batteries on this guy. This is a very easy panel to remove. You do have a couple pegs there, as well as a couple magnets, so it does peg in slightly, but it's majority held in by the magnet. Then you just do have a little switch in there, and it lights up. I do like, and it's so easy to put back on, I love it. I do like the design, the light in there. I think it looks quite nice. Of course, with the lights off, does look very nice. So I do like that a lot. And really quickly, let me give you a better shot of the actual arc reactor. Alright, I don't know how, you know, well my camera is picking it up. You can see a little detail in there, but in person you can really see the detail in his arc reactor even when it's shut off, even when it's on, which I like a ton. It's not just a big bright light that's in his chest. You actually get the detail of the arc reactor because they actually put in some really nice design in that arc reactor, which we really don't see in other scales of Iron Man. So I do like it a lot. Give you one shot of it shut off. Now that's the actual detail that's in the arc reactor. Of course, it looks really nice. I like it a lot, and with the light on, you can completely see all that detail, which, you know, doesn't come across on my camera, but in person you can, so I really do like it a lot, and I like the arc reactor. I think it's great, as well as it does have a more robust type of feeling as far as the shape goes. It's just a triangle, you know. I think it fits a lot. The shape of the arc reactor fits the armor itself, so I do like that a lot, as well as a rectangle arc reactor is something that we really don't see, which is kind of neat. So yeah, so now let's do now let's go over a pose, and then I'll show you the size comparison. Alright, quickly before I do some size comparisons, just wanted to show you Igor in a little scene that I set up. This was, you know, a type of scene that I've wanted to do since I put Igor on pre-order, and it's just kind of Tony Stark working on him. As you can see, you've got Dummy there. I did throw in some cords, and then as well as some other random metal pieces that I just found in my garage. I, you know, kind of put one of them on his thigh and then one of them on his shoulder, just to give him a different type of look, make him look a little bit more incomplete. So yeah, so just a quick, you know, little option of a way you can display him. I did this and I really liked it, so I thought that it would be necessary to put in the review. So there you go. Now let's go on to size comparisons. Alright, so here of course we have Igor compared to the large companions of the Hot Toys Marvel Universe. Of course, the only ones that they have made so far are these three, Monger, Igor, and Hulk. Overall, they look really cool together just because they're massive, they're incredibly detailed, and they're expensive, every single one. Really do like them though. I think that they just look really neat together, even though their characters don't really go together. I think Igor could definitely have can't talk. Igor could have held his own as the Hulkbuster, I think. He does have a Hulkbuster size to him, which I really didn't think came across too well in the movie. You know, he looked big, but he didn't look as big as this Hot Toys representation does compared to the Hulk. Overall, they all look great together. Now, I've seen a lot of pictures of Igor, of course, compared to these two, and, you know, a lot of people pose him up with, you know, straight legs and the you know, ball joint torso completely moved up, and, of course, to give him a really massive look, and, you know, so they can say, you know, Igor's bigger than the Hulk and Ironmonger, and I don't like to do that. I wanted to give you a size comparison of how you'll probably have Igor displayed. I would assume most people would display him with you know, slightly bent knees and, you know, a bit of his legs kind of spread out just a bit, and then having the torso basically fully extended down to give him that arch arch back, the Igor type of look. And because of that, this is the size that you get to if you have him displayed in a way that I think most people will display him, because it's kind of how the character should be. And that being said, the back panels that kind of lift up the building they do not go over Hulk or Ironmonger. So having Igor displayed in a way that you would display Igor, he is not taller than either of these figures. Now, of course, if you do extend his legs and extend his torso, he will come above both of them. So you know, depends on how you display him, how tall he'll actually be. But he isn't taller than them in a comfortable Igor position, in my opinion. I will give you one quick look at them from side to side. Of course, that isn't to say that he's not as big as them. He is massive, he is incredibly bulky, and in a lot of places he's bulkier than them. Plus, both of them are completely straight up in their positions. They really don't have spread legs, and they're not hunched over or anything like that. So Igor is bigger than them, and he does cost more than them. Now, that being said, when I went over my video of why I thought Igor was ridiculously priced, I did use the specifications that they had on Sideshow's website of the of how tall he was, and on that website it claims that he is 16.5 inches tall, and that isn't accurate. I mean, even slouched down like this, and if you measure him, he's about 17.5 inches tall, so I don't know why they have him shorter than he actually is. So that's why my information is a little off in that video, because at the time, and still if you go to Sideshow's website, they do have him at 16.5 inches tall, and he is taller than that, even quite slouched down, so I don't know why they have that as the size, but that is what was wrong with Sideshow's website, and why my information is a little off in that video, and it's just because of that. I still think he is a ridiculous price, but I'll go over that at the end of this video. Now I'll do one quick shot of them standing at the side. Alright, so here's a side view of these behemoths. As you can see, all quite massive, of course. Igor is larger for the most part in his girth, his depth is actually larger than the other figures. His helmet is bigger than Hulk and Ironmonger's helmet. His arms are bigger than the two of them. Now his waist is a little debatable. It's bigger than Hulk. When you just take the top section, you know, this top torso piece, and you compare it to the round you know, section of Monger, it's a little bit comparable. I would say that they're about the same size, but then you also have a waist piece of Igor that is not accounted for in Ironmonger. So overall, he is larger than them. Leg-wise, leg is a little debatable. It's larger than Hulk's, of course. Ironmonger's leg compared to Igor's leg, it's hard to tell. I think that Igor's leg is taller. Of course, because it's slouched down and bent like this, it isn't right now, but if you do have it extended like Monger's leg is extended, it actually would be taller than Monger's leg. But when it comes to width-wise, I think Monger and Igor are about the same in that sense. So overall, he is the biggest Hot Toys Marvel figure to date. That's not like a vehicle or something. It is actually just an actual character. He is the biggest one, so that is pretty neat, and I'm glad to be able to show you this. So now let's compare him to some normal size Hot Toys figures that would fit with this character. Alright, so here's a bit of an Iron Legion setup with Igor with the Silver Centurion. I really wish that I could show you a larger scale of a Iron Legion setup with more armors, but for right now, these are the only two that I have from the Iron Legion. I went back and forth on which Iron Legion figures to get. The repaints and the exclusives, I had no interest in. Those are an easy pass, but the other more unique armors like the Heartbreaker, Red Snapper, these two, Star Boost, you know, Bones and Striker, I've been back and forth upon which ones to get. I've decided on these two. I also did decide on Star Boost. I am getting him. I basically have decided no on Heartbreaker at the moment. If I can find him for a decent price, maybe in the future I'll pick him up. And then both Bones and Striker I'm still undecided on. I want to see how the magnets work in Bones armor, so I want to see reviews of him before I decide on that one. And then Striker, I want to see how I still feel about the Iron Legion, you know, more towards September, October, November of this year, just so, you know, if I even still care at that point, to decide if I want that one. But for right now, even if I don't get any more more Iron Legion figures. I am very happy for the 3 that I have or am going to have, because Star Boost will be here in a couple weeks or a month. Those 3 armors I think will just look great together because they all focus on one color. They're all very metallic and they're all very uniquely designed armors. I think that they will just look incredible together. At the moment, this is how I have these 2 displayed together. I have them in one cube of, or in 2 cubes of the D12 cabinet, of course, because of course Igor's way high. He's, you know, obviously can't fit in one. Even if you bend him or really crouch him down, he still isn't going to fit in one square, unfortunately, for those people who like to do that. Overall, they do look great together, though, and if you do have other members of the Iron Legion, Heartbreaker, Star Boost, other ones like that, I think that they would just look incredible together, I must say. So yeah, so now let's just finish up the review by talking about what I think about the Igor figure altogether. Alright, so my overall thoughts on Igor, figure-wise is great. I really do enjoy it. I think accessory-wise he's lacking, and the really only area that I can see that he's lacking accessories is an extra pair of fist hands. I think those are very necessary for the figure, which he doesn't have, which is unfortunate. His functions are really neat, the way that his back panels lift up, the kind of paneling on his spine that can kind of hinge open and close. It really doesn't do much. I expected them to have more of a function when he first went on pre-order, and instead he just has a couple of hinge panels. Nothing too special. I love how you get to the batteries on this guy. Very easy to remove, especially on that chest, which I really do like. And he is, of course, just very large, which makes him more attractive, more eye-catching, which is really quite neat. The negatives on him would be price. This has been something that I've felt very strongly about since he first came out. I really wasn't expecting this price point. I thought, I was hoping that he'd be $350. I wanted him to be $350, but I was more expecting the $400. I didn't expect much over $400, maybe $420 at the most. So I was very surprised to see a $510 price tag. I thought that was ludicrous, and I went over point by point why I thought that was crazy at the time when he first went on pre-order. Now, actually having them in hand, do I still agree with what I said? For the most part, yes. Now, in hand, he is bigger than the measurements said he was, so because of that, I give him a little bit more slack. And then, but also in hand, when he first went on pre-order, I thought that he'd have more of a function as to his whole kind of lifting the building thing. I thought the spine did a little bit. I thought the spine did a little bit more, and I thought that the back panel would be able to kind of really move. So I expected the function to be even greater back then, and now just seeing that a couple panels move and the 2 things on the top of his back, extend up, that really is a bit disappointing and something that I thought was going to be cooler just from when he went on pre-order. I still think that $510 is ridiculous, seeing that he's a little bigger than I expected. I think a $440 price tag would be acceptable and would be understandable and would be acceptable by Hot Toys' standards. Now, I think that anything over that is quite high. I would recommend that you strongly think about this one before making the purchase. And because also one of my points in the last, in that video was, this character is in the movie for literally 11 seconds. He is in the movie for 11 seconds. You do not see him very much at all. And, he's destroyed at the end. So it's not like we're ever going to see him again. He's never going to be mentioned again. That was it. We get that one scene. So I would recommend this to people who are really interested in the unique armors, which is really myself. I really like the unique aspect of him. If you're not into that, if you don't have a bunch of Hot Toys, you're just trying to pick very main characters type of things like that, this is definitely not going to be one for you. I'd go with an armor that's much more classic, the Mark III, 7, etc. This one, of course, does not fit that bill. It's incredibly weird, which I think is really neat and, really got me excited because of his weirdness. I really did want him, which is kind of interesting. But overall, I do think that the price tag is way too high, so I would not recommend this for most people. This will be for select people who are big Iron Man fans, who like unique armors, and who are willing to pay the price tag. Would recommend that you try to get this guy at a discount. I wouldn't recommend paying the full $510 though, because that is just ridiculous, like I've stated many times and I will state many more times. So yeah, overall very happy that I did get him though. He is a fun figure and just an eye-catching piece in the collection. So there you go, that's my review of the Hot Toys Iron Man 3 Iron Legion Igor. Thanks so much for watching.